Teachers roll their eyes at cell phones in the classroom. So frustrating, almost impossible to police kids being distracted, a major issue hampering education. But now, New York's top official is carrying their cause. Governor Kathy Hochul wants to ban cell phones in schools, quote, bell to bell. And this is important because it would mean teachers wouldn't have to do that policing. But how exactly it would work is still a work in progress. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Long Run Wealth, an SEC-registered investment advisor in Lake Placid, providing comprehensive wealth management, retirement, and financial planning solutions. LongRunWealth.com.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Wednesday, February 5th. First up, North Country leaders breathed a sigh of relief yesterday when they woke up to the news that President Donald Trump is delaying his tariffs against Canada after the two countries worked out a temporary deal. But as Kara Chapman reports, officials in Clinton County say uncertainty remains and some damage has already been done.
North Country Chamber of Commerce President Gary Douglas didn't mince words about his reaction to the tariff delay.
Well, it's kind of like a prisoner in the electric chair who gets a stay of execution from the governor. Of course, we welcome it, but we're going back to the cell. We're not free yet.
At the Chamber's State of the County, City, and Town breakfast yesterday, Douglas told reporters that even though the tariffs haven't gone into effect, they're already having real impacts here in the North Country. For example, he says at least 2 Canadian manufacturers have paused plans to expand their operations here.
Business doesn't like to operate in uncertainty, so you know that uncertainty is causing things that you don't know what would have happened otherwise. But we know that things are being put on pause and being put in danger.
President Donald Trump's administration initially planned to impose 25% tariffs on all Canadian goods at midnight Tuesday. But hours before, Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced a 30-day pause while negotiations continue. The town of Plattsburgh is home to multiple facilities owned by Canadian manufacturers. Plattsburgh Town Supervisor Michael Cashman says he's heard from many who are recalibrating.
I'm cautiously optimistic that we will work, through this, but I know many of the individuals in the manufacturing realm are trying to source other opportunities to make sure that they can keep business moving as normal as possible.
Another big concern is the proposed tariffs' impact on cross-border travel and tourism. Prime Minister Trudeau has urged Canadians to travel and spend money within the country rather than in the U.S. Douglas encouraged chamber members at the breakfast to reinforce the message that Canadians are, quote, still our friends.
And the most important thing about the U.S.-Canadian relationship isn't government to government. There have always been disputes through the years, government to government, but we've always preserved and valued the people-to-people relationship. We need to make sure not to damage that.
Douglas says the chamber is working back channels to try to influence how the White House handles the tariffs. But he says, aside from messaging, there's not much else his organization or the North Country's federal representatives can do.
The fact is, this is coming from the very top down, from the president, with a very personal approach to all of this. It's not terribly influenceable by our members of Congress or our senators. We welcome their support, but that's not going to move the needle.
Trump's mentioned border security and drug trafficking as the reason for the tariffs. But Douglas says, depending on how the next 30 days shake out, he anticipates the focus of the tariff threats will shift.
We know the administration is going to come back around on direct trade imbalance matters. So this isn't going to go away for quite some time, but hopefully it won't be as aggressive as it has been.
Douglas says the chamber estimates cross-border business and commerce have a more than $1 billion impact on Clinton County, and anything that messes with that will have significant consequences for North Country businesses and jobs. Kara Chapman, North Country Public Radio, Plattsburgh.
New York's 2 senators reacted today to President Trump's comments that he wants to take over Gaza and relocate Palestinians. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand was harshly critical.
It is something that will deeply destabilize the region, and it will create a necessity to put American boots on the ground, something that President Trump promised he would not do. And so it is harmful, it is destabilizing, and it goes back on his promises. I do not think this is something the American people will support, and I stand strongly against it.
Senator Chuck Schumer said he was still being briefed on the issue and had a tempered reaction.
so many unanswered questions that makes it look like something that's going to be very hard to realize.
Gillibrand and especially Schumer have emerged as key Democratic opposition voices to the second Trump administration. Gillibrand says she's worried about impacts of federal funding cuts or freeze on VA hospitals and Medicare. Schumer is concerned about late payments to the nation's Head Start programs. Governor Kathy Hochul is renewing calls for quick progress in the criminal cases related to the death of an inmate late last year. Robert Brooks died after corrections officers beat him at Marcy Correctional Facility outside Utica. The incident was captured on video. State Attorney General Letitia James recused herself from the investigation, citing a conflict of interest. She appointed the Onondaga County District Attorney as special prosecutor. The medical examiner there has now ruled that Brooks' death was a homicide. Hochul released a statement today saying she believes, quote, the legal process must quickly move forward with criminal charges being filed and arrests. Hochul named a new superintendent for the facility and is also expediting $400 million to install fixed cameras and body cameras at all state prison facilities. Hochul fired the 14 employees involved in the incident. Governor Hochul has included more than $13 million in her executive budget to support a statewide ban on cell phones in schools. In a Siena poll released on Monday, 62% of New Yorkers say they support that idea, and so does the State Teachers Union. Amy Feiereisel reports on how North Country school districts are reacting to it.
The governor's cell phone ban proposal was no surprise.
The governor's been talking about this publicly for months. She's been on a listening tour around the state, including sessions that were held here in the North Country.
That's Stephen Todd, the superintendent of the Jefferson Lewis BOCES. He says he commends the governor for bringing this particular topic into the spotlight.
It's not a kid issue. It's a people issue. Grown-ups have problems with distractions. I do. We all do.
And teachers have a lot of trouble teaching students distracted by their phones, says Melinda Person, president of the New York State United Teachers Union, or NYSUT. She said in an interview with WAMC that cell phones have been a real challenge in the classroom for years now.
Especially since we came back from COVID, our students are showing up distracted by constant notifications. We're seeing kids, gaming during the day, using social media, and hearing about kids' inability to focus on learning.
Person said a bell-to-bell solution is critical, meaning teachers won't be responsible for policing the use of phones during the school day, like during lunch or passing periods. Stephen Todd says that North Country educators are mostly supportive of a ban, but that individual districts need to be able to decide the details.
From my experience over the years, I've found that when local communities are able to put their own stamp on things and do things in a way that works in their community, rather than having a one-size-fits-all statewide arrangement, it tends to work better.
A number of North Country districts have already restricted cell phones during the school day. In Malone, phones have to stay in kids' lockers, but students can check messages between periods. At Saranac Lakes High School, there's no cell tower coverage, and the administration has locked the Wi-Fi, which means phones can't connect to the internet. Todd says a Jefferson County district is using Yonder pouches, locked bags that students put their devices in for the day. The governor's proposal suggests that local districts would have control over details like this. State Education Commissioner Betty Rosa says that an individual approach will be important for a statewide ban to work.
We totally, as a department, believe in the local control, and we believe in the fact that individual districts have been doing a great job in addressing these issues.
Criticism of a cell phone ban centers around parents having access to their kids. Stephen Todd says that's understandable, and that no matter what, there will be procedures that allow parents to communicate with their children quickly and easily.
It may not be through cell phones. It might be through very clearly communicated, easy to access protocols within the school using school phones. But that is the major concern.
The governor is pushing for a ban in the state budget, which should be adopted by April 1st. She wants the policy in place by the start of the next school year. Amy Feiereisel, North Country Public Radio.
We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Eddie Lawrence of Saranac Lake and Jared Sommerfeld of Potsdam. I'm David Sommerstein, North Country Public Radio.